Now that we're done training to fight against Gary that one time, let's actually explore the town we spent so long grinding near. I kinda get why the paths are less than convenient for trainers, at least in gameplay terms. It's part of what makes the journey interesting after all. And while I'm pretty sure everyone in this world is a trainer, that doesn't change the fact that various businesses would probably do everything they can to make things more convenient, at the very least to transport goods from one town to another. Locked and inexplicably pushing us off the ledge. Can't help feeling it would have been just fine not opening the door when we try getting through it, instead of just throwing us down like that. If I was in a hurry, then I wouldn't be going through a Japanese role-player game. Or really any role-player game. And while I know this is the first game in the franchise, and we need some more tutorials thrown in, the fact of the matter is we already have plenty of Pokemon right now. You'd think he'd acknowledge that we seem to know at least something about catching the little bastards at this point. Some people ask why the old man encounters a Weedle in a random spot when he's not in the grass or releasing a Pokemon to at least try to weaken the thing that comes out of nowhere. Me? I'm just pissed that we see somebody with 50 Pokeballs this early in the game when we don't have the money for even half that many. Well, it's only easier to fight if all the team members are at a reasonable level at that point in the game. It'd be more than a little awkward to get to the 7th gym and only be around level 20 after all. Speaking of awkward, what's it feel like to go against a much lower level version of your own damn species? Granted, it's not the first time Nim has run into that, but it just felt like something to comment on as it happened right then and there. Of course we're going into Viridian Forest. It's not like we have any alternate paths forward. And lady, if you think this is a maze, you're the easily confused type. But then, considering just how often I felt lost in the various Metroid games I've done so far, maybe it's just a matter of her not being used to anything that involves exploration at all. Well, if there's one thing about random encounters that I gotta admit really didn't age well, is the fact that it makes it annoying if you're enjoying the non-battle music in a given area. Yeah, Kakuna and Metapod are pretty good experience farms this forest this early on. They're completely incapable of striking us even though their previous form had offensive moves. All they've got is Harden, which really reminds me of that early anime episode where Ash and that samurai guy both have their Metapods hardening with no other moves. Funny, especially for the members of the audience who would take a different meaning of the two guys telling someone else to go harder, but considering a player-controlled Metapod still has Tackle and String Shot, then a player-controlled Weedle will still have Poison Sting and String Shot? Why is it that even trainer versions of those two Cocoon Mons only have one defensive option and no offense in this game? Well, those critical hit rates are gonna make it a bit annoying to capture one of these bugs. Yet another reason I'm probably never gonna do any Nuzlocke runs in any of these playthroughs. My luck just goes all over the damn place. Oh, that's always annoying, buddy. Sometimes you've just got to choose when you don't want to grab another one, though. Okay, time to start adding some more to the scoreboard. Well, if you want to battle, who am I to say no? Seems that the trainers in Viridian Forest aren't at the same level as Gary. Definitely like that touch, really shows that our rival is on a different league than the average scrubs you run into in the road. Right, on to the next team member that needs leveling up. Nim's ahead on the scoreboard with 2 wins. This is gonna put Mig on the board as well. Hell, Mig is just gonna rip through the trainers in this forest, if given the bloody chance. As an overall trainer, Jack has become an ace in the most bare-bones definition, with 5 trainer-trained Pokemon defeated by our team. I'm not really gonna say anything about the bug trainer sticking to searching for more bugs. Not when I'm going for Pokemon I like instead of trying to search for whatever the meta says is the best in this particular game. Still, if I remember right, then that Caterpie and Weedle should have evolved by then. Though conversely, some of the Metapods and Kakunas we've been finding in the wild evolved actually a little early. And to be absolutely fair, this game, for some reason, won't let anyone who isn't a player keep Tackle or Poison Sting when their worms turn into a Chrysalis. From an actual bug metamorphosis standpoint, I actually kinda like that. Certainly more than I like the idea that we just found a sign in a forest about Professor Oak's prototype device. Seriously, only 2 people in this game even know what a Pokédex is at this point. In later games, it makes sense that there might be signs that talk about it, since it's more of an established device, but in this game, it's supposed to be a pretty brand new machine. It's funny how that one gameplay/story thing I take an issue with, but when it comes to the bug evolutions in their moves, part of me can't help feeling the game should have gone the other way, really. Not really sure why you need a poisoned head when you're only eating leaves. Probably could have used some better explanation for that particular, evolutionary what the hell. The nickname for Weedle here is just a random bunch of letters I came up with that sounded like something that'd be cool for a bug-style kaiju. Kind of a shame that I'm not planning on sticking with a Pokemon I decided to give a unique name like Giban, but to be fair, it's a meaningless name as far as I can really tell. Hold on, let me just check Google to see if that name actually means anything. Huh. It's actually an old German word that means to give. Interesting, especially since I didn't actually know that word even existed before I checked online just now. Funny the things you learn when you make up a word out of nowhere, and then check Google to see if it actually exists. Don't think that's gonna be a thing for us in a lot of the Pokemon games we go through. Anyway, Belaram is now on the board with a single win. Mig, I hope you're hungry. Not that you're actually going to eat that bug, despite being probably the best suited to do so. Considering all Pokemon are treated with some measure of sentience in a lot of the media, it kinda gets awkward when one, actually eats another. In the adventure manga, that kinda works, since that version of the world is a bit different, but the anime certainly doesn't feel that gritty. and the games are generally so lighthearted, it's easier to connect them with the anime than the manga, even if there's still a share of inconsistencies between the two media. Anyway, Mig's leveled up and taken the lead on the scoreboard. It's funny because I'm not really playing with the idea of I want this or that mon to get a certain amount of wins against trainers. It's something I came up with after I'd already recorded everything to help give me something else to talk about as we go on. The win distribution is about as random as it's gonna get, but Phyllis, the one who was on the board right at the start, probably isn't going to be the absolute biggest scoring ace, even if he's going to be on the team from the absolute beginning to the absolute end. Kinda surprised we didn't have any random encounters as we went through that patch of grass. Ah, great, that no stealing sign just tempted me to go through the Team Rocket Edition fan-made ROM, just for the novelty of being a criminal in one of these games instead of the plucky, just starting out hero. Just something else for me to put on the list of eventually get around to. It's a very long list. Yeah, no surprise that a bird of the same level as a bug is still gonna dominate, even if the bird doesn't have anything that's super effective against the bug. Oh, it's not that I'm especially good at this. I've just got a very unfair experience advantage with this generation in particular, and that advantage doesn't carry over to convenient points on a bar. Anyway, that's probably going to be the last trainer we win against in this clip, unless I somehow miscounted how many trainer Pokemon we've dealt with this early on. We should be up to 9 wins. Good to know it's larger than the number of clips we've done at this point at any rate. Anyway, I'd say this is as good a time as any to start fast-forwarding again. We're back to doing some grinding while looking for more Pokemon to add to our team. At the very least, searching for Pikachu and a Caterpie here should be a good enough excuse for us to raise our level enough to take on Brock. Sure, Phyllis has a type advantage, but it's not like we've got any moves that really take advantage of that just yet. Though I'm pretty sure a Squirtle would have such a move this early on. Again, I get it from an actual biological standpoint why the Cocoon Pokemon can't do any attacks, but from a gameplay perspective, it's kind of bullshit, especially since the player's Kakuna or Metapod can attack. Well, hello there, you series mascot, you! If I had picked Charmander, then getting an electric type to help deal with water later on would feel pretty tempting, especially since it's the second gym. And I've got to admit, I do like a number of electric Pokemon like Magnemite and Voltorb. Plus, the only 2 Eevee evolution forms I ever consider going to are Umbreon and Jolteon, one of which is electric. Still, I'm afraid that Red Team isn't actually going to have any long-term electric types on it. Ah, well, perhaps when I get to Generation 2. I basically named this Pikachu we're probably never going to use, the Japanese word for a merchant. Specifically, a kind of merchant that specializes in transporting various goods and has warehouses to store the various things they intend to sell. It felt pretty appropriate given both how far Pokemon has spread across the planet and the fact that Pikachu is the franchise mascot. Seriously, there aren't too many other Pokemon that can instantly make people think, oh, it's one of those extremely cute Pokemon. Seriously, you got Detective Pikachu, you got Ash from the anime consistently followed by his personal Zeus Bolt shooting Pikachu. You've got Pokemon Yellow, where your only choice is to have a Pikachu on your team. Not to mention the Kanto remake Let's Go Pikachu, the crappy game Hey You Pikachu. I mean, good God. There's a reason that frickin' mouse's highest stat is speed, because even if he's not the fastest around, he's zipping all over the place. If anything, I'm feeling a little guilty for giving him such a good name like that, and permanently benching him. It kinda makes me feel the same as I'm feeling for, Giban, really. Yeesh. If I'm gonna keep, giving myself that kind of feeling, maybe in later games I shouldn't go out of my way to capture Pokemon that I have absolutely no intention to use in any way, shape, or form. At the very least, it's gonna be quite annoying to come up with some good names in later games if I use up all the good ones in the earlier generations. Though I suppose I won't feel too bad about naming every Rattata we run into Nim for the Rats of Nim, or naming every Spearow we capture Mig, because, well, those planes were kind of mass-produced. But again, that's a problem for the future. Not that we really have any problems for the present right now. I'm just grinding. It probably says something that I tend to use the moments I'm grinding in a role player like this to just outright read something else. It also says something that when it comes to turn-based role players like this, I actually prefer for there to be enough quiet, slow moments for me to keep making progress in the game while also doing other things like cooking or reading. Of course, part of what that probably says is something involving time management. And considering how much time gaming itself can take, much less commenting on the footage after the fact, I'd say it's pretty clear I tend to have a lot of time to burn. Kind of a double-edged sword of, the internet, really. I can keep in contact with absolutely everyone I've ever met in my life if I want to, regardless of how far away they are, but pretty much everyone now lives in vastly different locations from me. I can't really hang out with any of my old friends or close family members all that often. Maybe once a month at most. I suppose it's sad in its own right, but hey, better than never seeing or hearing from them ever again. And gaming is one of the many ways I can keep in contact with them outside of that maybe one day per month. Though, I'm never going to be using any of the recordings of any of our multiplayer sessions or anything like that. That would feel a bit too personal for me to just start posting online. Sure, no chance for any collaborative LPs or anything like Left 4 Dead, but there's plenty of other things to go through. Like this game right now, and for those getting sick of seeing the screen just zip by like this as I keep fast-forwarding, just skip your head to around 2020 on the clock down there. May as well give the audience a bit more of a chance to skip over the grinding, even if I'm forcing myself to both play through it and comment on the footage afterwards. It just wouldn't feel right for me to just remove it entirely from the game. And I'm not just saying that because I'm not a fan of how Sword and Shield made leveling up far too easy in so many ways. It's not even like I use rare candies to level up for any of my Pokemon, I just sell them for more money. But the forced XP share for the entire game? Ugh. If you don't want people to grind levels up like that, then don't make this style of role-player game. That's almost as stupid as making a rhythm-based game, but never giving them anything fast-paced, never giving them that fast-paced tune. You're taking away part of the satisfaction at the end of the journey. Well, that's enough leveling up of Phyllis for now. Again, I wouldn't really describe this forest as a maze, at least not as we see it in this game. Though the anime and manga certainly expanded it enough for several episodes. Of course, they also had to expand the cities and towns, not to mention add some other towns and smaller settlements. Different media kinda need to throw in more people in order to make a region feel reasonably populated. But it still needs just enough untamed wilderness around here for trainers to adventure all over the place as well. Must be pretty tough to balance that all out, really. Indeed he is, and I want to give him some proper respect since he's going to be the first gym leader we run into in this franchise. Funny, I don't see a phone for you to interact with here. But maybe it's more of a graphics issue, really. I'd be willing to buy there's something to interact with on the wall that we can't really see, at the very least. Though I don't really recall cell phones being a thing back when this game was released. Anyway, let's do some team rearranging. I know there's not too much point in us training up the Weedle into a Beedrill. It's not like that's gonna help against a bunch of rocks, but still. May as well get Mig and Bellram off the team. It would be especially stupid to throw birds against rocks. You know, I could have ended this clip pretty close now, but I think I'll extend it just a bit to show some footage from Pokemon Blue. It's probably not all that important for us to see a Caterpie get captured and then evolved all the way up to a Butterfree, but felt it was worth throwing in. This is probably the only generation where I'm gonna have two different playthroughs with different teams going on as we go, since in Pokemon Stadium, that actually opens things up in an interesting way for the two teams to interact with each other. This footage is just going to be of us getting the Caterpie, though, and then it evolving. I'm not going to show us outright grinding with this thing. The only grinding we're going to be seeing is from Red Team. For some reason, the only times I ever manage to catch a Caterpie in Red version is when I have a Charmander as a starter. But in Blue, it's the most common thing to find in this bloody forest. Or at least, it usually feels that way. Apparently, in this particular run, it took me a little longer to find that first Caterpie. And for those paying attention, yes, I bothered to give the Pokemon in the other playthrough different nicknames, so that when they interact in Pokemon Stadium, there is no chance I'm gonna get too confused who's on what team. We'll get the first Red vs. Blue encounter in Stadium after we beat Pewter Gym. Given the fact that most of the footage in this LP is going to be from my Pokemon Red LP, I think you know which team is going to be my A team. But that's not saying that Blue Team is just going to be a bunch of forgettable scrubs. It's going to have a number of Pokemon I like, or at least respect, but not quite enough to be on the main roster. And being on Blue Team is their chance to get some measure of showcase, even if I'm not going to keep any kind of score for their wins like with Red, or really show too much footage of them. I'm just going to show the gym wins and then the Red versus Blue battles. Anyway, looks like we've finally found a first bloody Caterpie. Certainly took long enough considering how common it's supposed to be. I know it's not terribly original of me to give a Caterpie the nickname of Mothra. Not everything can be actually pretty clever, and at least it fits. Now for the rest of the footage. Part of me feels that Mothra should have been in Red Team for a bit, but unfortunately we never saw a Caterpie in Red version. So this is going to be the best we get for this particular potential could-have-been team member. As a side note, anyone else get the feeling that Butterfree's eyes look like they'd fit better on an evolution for Venonat rather than Caterpie? I'm not saying compound eyes look wrong on a bug, just that there's something about the artwork that makes me think they shifted around some details in a hurry before releasing the first game.